No matter how many Star Talk explainers or Kurzgesagt videos I watch, trying to wrap my head around quantum mechanics is pretty tough. Fortunately for me, Outer Wilds and its scaled down solar system scales up the concepts to a macroscopic level that even my hatchling brain can understand. Taking concepts like quantum entanglement and superpositions and then gamifying them was a great idea by the developers, and they created a bunch of fun puzzles for players to solve. YouTube viewers also live in all possible states, so here's a warning that if you're going to observe this video without having completed the game, then you're going to get plenty spoiled by continuing on, so pause here, subscribe, and then come back when you've finished your journey. And I won't be spoiling any of the DLC in here, so you can return even sooner. For everyone else, don't pause, still subscribe, and let's begin by laughing at those new players who'll spend hours in the upcoming weeks scratching their heads at how to land on the quantum moon when it doesn't help you complete the game. That's right, pretty much anything quantum in Outer Wilds doesn't actually help you get to the end credits. The shards, the towers, the moon, and even our quantum conversationalist Solanum are really only lore drops when you stop and think about it. Completing the game, the right way that is, needs you to know 3 things. How to access the vessel, what you need to get from the Astrin project to power the vessel, and where to go once the vessel is powered. Speaking to Solanum is essentially the culmination of a very long side quest that involves panicking in underground caves, frantically reading text in 0G while that song is playing, and being a creepy halfie and taking photos of holes. But it's a good thing we all went through that trauma, because Solanum won't be at the ancient glade in the game's final moments if we didn't. And far more importantly, you wouldn't be here now to press the like button as you listen to what I think is the magic source in the final campfire song with all of the travellers. A channel name like this one may have a bias to church drums, but I can't deny that the Nomai's piano Solanum appears to play on her staff is the part of the base game's finale that gets the tears truly going. But Solanum only appears if you meet her at the 6th location of the quantum moon. I embarrassingly somehow missed Gabru on my first playthrough and was very confused when they called me a time buddy. But that dialogue aside, it does make sense that your Harthian astronauts are there in the ancient glade, because the hatchling would have met them before you took control of their body to make them die dozens of gruesome deaths. Not so for Solanum, who the developers with their amazing attention to detail left out, presumably to make speedrunners feel bad by not getting to listen to those sweet piano beats. And if you stick around for the post-credits scene, this too will be different if you met Solanum or not. You may or may not know that the 14.3 billion years later scene changes depending on your actions in the game. Of all the infinite possibilities offered by this quantum-like realm, there are some constants you can make in the next universe. One comes down to whether or not you lost your scout on the eye, aka you were too scared to jump into that weird cloud thing, so you sent your little scout first. If you didn't, this is a scene that you'll see. But if you did, then you'll also find the Harthian's technology is pretty durable, because you'll see your scout flying through the new universe. And this changed a little around the DLC time to better show the scout, with earlier players seeing the 2D version instead of the 3D model we get in today's game. But back to our quantum friend Solanum. This post-credits scene changes subtly depending on whether you found her or not. Most players will see these insects appearing at the bottom right of the inverse planet in the new universe, but those who never met Solanum in their Outer Wilds journey won't get to know that they created new sentient life, as it'll just be the planets you see here, nothing more. And a small bonus bit of trivia is that the design of the closest planet to the camera has also had a small tweak to its art since release to show it is inside out like the planets we see in the distance. Sticking with the end, this is the music that plays when you hit the 14.3 billion years later scene. And now you're listening closely to it, what do you spot about the piece that ties it nicely to our quantum ending of innumerable possibilities turning into just one? It's comfortably familiar, yet still unusual, right? We've had whistling, drums, banjos, flutes, harmonicas, pianos, and sheer terror. as music around the solar system, but this planet, some 14.3 billion years into the future, is, as Chert says, where the rules change. It's a cello instead of something we've previously heard in the game, indicating that this is a brand new universe. But to make sure we know the Hatchlings' influence on this new universe is there and strong, the tune we hear right at the very end of our time is the first one that you'll hear when you begin a new expedition. Entering the Eye of the Universe is pretty confusing for the first time. You'll inevitably wonder why you're back at the museum when you eventually land after your leap of faith. But if seeing the observatory stuck on top of the eye wasn't enough to show you that things aren't exactly real in the most quantum of places, Solanum will. You'll gather all of the Traveller's instruments in the ancient glade, as well as a Nomai mask if you did find Solanum on the quantum moon, but this is the first time you actually speak, well, quantum speak to a Nomai. Unlike a quantum moon conversation where you communicate by using stones, your campfire chat here doesn't need any translator tool or icons to understand what she has to say, proving that this place is not taking place in the regular plane of existence for the Hatchling. That being said, there is one element of this ancient glade that is less unusual than out there in the regular solar system. You find Rebek by quantum destroying this building, Chert by zooming in on a star, and Feldspar by soiling yourself. But to get Gabbro requires following poetry. What players who only just completed the game might not know is that this quantum poem is found on Timber Half in an entirely optional area. I'm sure most players find this because of the grove shard showing up on their signal scope, but there's no puzzle to solve here. Nonetheless, you'll come across this poem which, like everything else in the area, changes when you stop observing it. The 4 lines will alternate in position, and if you've already found Gabbro, you probably won't think about these lines again until you reach the end of the game. But if you haven't found Gabbro, or if you went back to speak to the travellers on your journey, you'll find out that he was the original author and he calculated 24 different versions that this poem could be. The funny thing is, there is only one order at the actual ancient glade, very contrary to the quantum nature of the rest of the area. I guess that officially makes the correct poem "The quiet shade across old bark, in the ancient glade it's always dark." That's good and all, but I do have to say my preferred version is this one. Sticking with Gabbro's poem, and this isn't really quantum related or, well, even in the game, but it was one of the cutest Reddit posts I found when researching this video, so I had to share it. Kelsey Beecham, the driving force behind most of the game's incredible writing, is a sibling of creative director Alex Beecham. While some siblings might bicker and fight, not only did the Beecham's creativity give to the gaming world this wonderful piece of art you and I have played, but they inspired many others to make artwork based on the game. Not only that, but the developers Mobius Digital went even further and released a fan content policy that lets people make and sell their Outer Wilds handiwork so long as it doesn't rip off any official items. And as if to prove this point, Redditor P. Walkery shared that Alex bought a charm of the quantum poem for his sister Kelsey around Christmas time nearly 6 years after the game's first release. If that's not a stamp of approval for the fans, I don't know what is. Back to the game, and while the Quantum Grove has pieces jumping around all the time when you're not looking, it's possible to miss this also happens at other quantum locations when the clock is ticking down and you just want to finish the puzzle. Some of the more astute playthroughs out there figure this out when they go caving, and the maze on Ember Twin's northern lakebed isn't so simple to navigate. I ended up doing the panicking headless chicken approach on my first playthrough, but thankfully I eventually made it. But even when out of the maze, the cave shard still has its fun, moving the light switch, plants, and even the Nomai skeletons around here. And if you thought the anglerfish were the only jump scare in the game, wait until this happens and you don't expect it. It's not only the shards that trigger these slightly creepy changes to a Nomai though. Solanum exists in a weird state where she avoided the ghost matter's reach by being at the quantum moon at the best possible moment. However, she admits herself that she has a hypothesis that she might not be entirely alive. Indeed, when you leave her and go back to the quantum moon of the 5 regular planets, you'll be greeted by her body. But much like her caving friends and everything else in quantum proximity, even her death position changes when you look away and look back at her. Finally, there's a great detail I first spotted watching Is Not Retro's playthrough. If rewatching players go through Outer Wilds is your thing and you enjoyed the highly recommended About Oliver run, let me tell you, Is Not Retro's is just as good. Anyway, getting the vessel to the Eye of the Universe is quite a seismic moment in the game. Reading about it for hours and hours and even seeing the symbol before you knew what it meant makes finally reaching there quite an achievement. I, and many players I've watched, soon figure that to reach the Eye you need to play with the Nomai's balls. I really need to start phrasing that better. But if you take your time here, and at this point in the game time is infinite, you can spot some things that you wouldn't have seen when the vessel was at Dark Bramble. If you hang around long enough, once you've warped, you can slowly see all of the supernovae turn the sky completely dark as entropy claims all of its victims. It might vary, but I found that waiting for around 10 minutes after the Harthian sun blows up, then you'll find these stars towards the top left of the vessel's window with your signal scope that are the last to disappear. Of course, there's no way of knowing what they are with any certainty, but I like to think that these are the ones that represent the glowing galaxy that all the contemporary Nomai mentioned on the text wall inside of the vessel. It's also bittersweet though, as it shows that no matter how smart the Nomai were, just like Chert, they knew the end was coming and there is no escape for them. As well as some DLC content making its way into the base game here, whether or not you've bought Echoes of the Eye, there is also confirmation that you really are at the 6th location. The Quantum Moon will appear here to answer the question about where it goes when it's not orbiting a planet nearby to the Sun. And, even more fun, the Quantum Moon remains quantum even when our solar system's star says goodbye. Instead of returning to orbit the now non-existent planets, it simply moves around the orbit of the Eye instead. Now, this might not have had as much Quantum Moon chat as you might have expected for a video talking about Outer Wilds quantum quirks, but don't worry. A dedicated Quantum Moon video is on the to-do list, so be sure to subscribe to see it pop up when it comes in the future. This is a channel dedicated to Outer Wilds, so liking and commenting on this video will really help YouTube share it with more players who love the game as much as you and I. And for those of you who are already subscribed, thank you so much for the support. It's been truly overwhelming. Until next time, be curious on your journey.